You know, there are a lot of things right now that are being covered up when it comes to the advancement of AI. I don't think people realize how much is going on behind the scenes, in behind closed doors, in tech circles, walking hand in hand with government officials. Now, in this video, I'm going to go over some of these things. I think more people need to know this. I'm really surprised that they're doing such a good job of covering this up. So before we get going, my name is Sean. My background is in tech. Originally, I designed and built autonomous robotic devices for the military and the aerospace industry. And for the last 23 years, I've owned my own software company. Now, even though I have been one to push technology forward, this is a lot different. This, as I see it develop, is going to have such a major impact on humans. And when I weigh the positives and the negatives, I truly believe that it's actually going to have a much greater negative effect on people than positive. And I explain why in a lot of my videos. But if you guys are new to the channel, I don't speak super fast because I like to think about what I'm saying. I speak honestly. I speak plainly. I don't read you a bunch of headlines and make a video on that. What I try to do is I want to talk this out with everybody. Let's talk about it. Now, I have a perspective, not only in tech, but as a father. I'm a military veteran. All my kids served. I'm a husband, married a long time. And, I have great concerns for where everything is going. And so on this channel, it's more of a mission to me than anything. I mean, I have an income. I have a software company. But right now I'm getting to the point where, do I choose between technology, the advancement of technology, just go full bore, or do I choose humans if it's going to cause some suffering? And the way my mama raised me, I choose humans. So we're going to go over some of this stuff. Now, what I'm going to start by talking about is something called compute. You guys memorize that word. That word is actually going to be as important in your future as the word gold, the word silver, oil, anything that is of value. Compute. What is compute? Well, compute is basically like horsepower in your car, or gas in your gas tank, or money that you have that you can use. And what it is in these buildings they're building right now. These are not your typical data center buildings. It used to be that data centers had a lot of servers. They would have tons of these servers. And what a server is basically like a computer in your home. Just imagine thousands of computers in a building. It's no longer that way. Now, these GPU units, these processors are, they can be about this size or whatever, and then they're just all crammed together, and the entire building, which I call the beast buildings, these things are going up all over the place, and these GPUs are packed so closely together with each other that they can't even air cool the building anymore. And so they have to use a lot of water, and they have to use a lot of electricity. And most of the electricity isn't for these GPUs to do calculations. Most of the electricity used is to cool the place. Heat is a massive problem in these beast buildings. And, the other thing I want you to keep in mind is instead of like thousands or whatever computers in a building, the beast building is just one big supercomputer. And that's all it is. It's just one giant supercomputer. Now, why is compute important? Well, compute is produced in these beast buildings. It is the energy and the cost to do a calculation. When you guys are using ChatGPT or Gemini or all that, these buildings are producing an answer for you. Now, you might think that chatbots think like humans and they talk, they can fool us and sound like humans, but they're basically calculating probability. They're just looking at word patterns and doing billions or trillions of calculations to give you a response. It all comes down to mathematics. There's no personality in it. It's kind of like when I was a kid and I would go to the creepy carnival and you go in this one tent and there's this fortune telling machine, and if you put a nickel in it, it'll tell you what kind of personality you have or what's going to happen to you. These are just really advanced guessing machines. And so every time you ask it a question, there's a cost. And right now, the big companies are trying to recover some of that cost by charging for subscriptions. But I can tell you right now, they're losing massive amounts of money, and they're trying to let the investors know it's all good and everything. Now, that can end up triggering a collapse, which I think, there's going to be a big reset to this whole thing. But nevertheless, the cat is out of the bag. This AI tech is not going away. It's only going to advance further, and it's going to have humongous consequences for people. Now, compute is a currency now. And so these super large companies are rapidly building these buildings. And the reason they're doing that is because that is going to be the currency of the future. Whoever has the most compute is going to control everything. It's going to be the money of the future. They're knowing this is coming. And so right now, they're scrambling to put these things up, and the cost is real high. The GPUs, the high-end GPUs, the graphics processing units, they're not producing them fast enough right now. So there's kind of an arms race. There are a lot of countries that are trying to keep GPUs from leaving their country and going to another country. There's a lot of countries that have blocked exporting of GPUs because GPUs are going to be something that's not only money, but it's going to be of major control in the future. And so right now, there are just a handful of companies that own most of the compute. And it's going to be all your big ones. If you guys can think big, we got Microsoft, Google, NVIDIA, Amazon. I bet you guys didn't even know Amazon was building these as well. And it's not to sell you products. They're building these because they're going to sell compute to companies, basically. And so as these things are going up, I when I started looking into this more heavily about all these beast buildings popping up everywhere, I started looking into how much electricity they actually take. And some of these buildings take as much electricity as a small city. Just one building. And they can take, collectively, they can take billions or trillions of gallons of water all of the time. And so I asked myself a question, and this is something I really need you guys to ask someone. Ask yourself. There's something really strange here. I'll give you an analogy about how I feel about this. When I go out into the woods and I hear the birds, I know things are okay. But when I go out in the woods or I'm walking around and all of a sudden the birds get quiet, something's wrong. Now, I grew up in this as a kid in the 70s and the 80s. I'm a product of the 80s. I'm Gen X. And correct me if I'm wrong, guys. All throughout our lives, we've always had environmentalist groups like Earth First, Sierra Club, Greenpeace. We've had all of these environmental groups speaking up all the time. I mean, it was endless. It was, when I was a kid, they were protesting this and that and the other. And I mean, all the way up till recently, been pretty loud. And then now we have the crowd that, they used to be the global warming crowd, or when I was a kid, they said it was global cooling. Then they changed it to global warming, because when I was a kid, they were trying to freak us out and say that we're going to have an ice age that's going to kill us all. That didn't come about, so then they called it global warming. And then they predicted by now the ozone layer would have disappeared and we're all going to fry. We still haven't fried yet. But now the new movement has been climate change. And whether you believe in climate change or not, this doesn't matter. I mean, whether you do or not, you need to ask a question, okay? Why aren't we hearing anything from any environmental groups? I mean, there's a couple tiny ones that are starting to speak up, but we have thousands or millions of tens of thousands of acres of land right now being bulldozed down, and these beast buildings are being built. And each one of these things requires a large amount of power and water. And if you look at the big companies' brochures, they tell you that we're using solar and hydroelectric and all that stuff. But see, that's not what all is really going on. That's on their brochure. Never trust the brochure. What's going on is some of these beast buildings are making deals with the power plant several miles away that is a coal-powered power plant or a nuclear power plant. You know, they're not all building a power plant to power them. You know, some of them are using existing resources, like, you know, like at the Hoover Dam, when there's hydroelectric power being generated from the Colorado River. They're taking existing electricity that would have gone somewhere else, and they're going to, you know, they use it. So why aren't these groups speaking up? I mean, I'm not one of them that has always liked the climate protesters, because I've been very suspicious of some of this. This is just me. I have family members that really believe in the climate change thing, and then I have others that don't. But me personally, I'm more scientific about this. I I study fossils and things like that. That's one of my hobbies. I really absolutely love geology and fossils and everything, and the climate has been changing forever. So I mean, that's my opinion, and my opinion is not based on how I feel. That's based on what I saw and what I see. But let's say you really believe in the climate change movement. You know, that we have to cut down on all this carbon emissions and all that kind of stuff. Or let's say you don't believe in it. And like me, some of this really annoys you. You know, when they're yelling so loud and they don't think for a second what they're saying. But I'm going to tell you guys right now, before you get all polarized on this, throughout my life, even though, you know, I've leaned one way or the other, I've always appreciated the push and pull humans had with each other. You know, that's why debates are really good. And I'm not talking about presidential debates. I'm talking about when people debate ideas, they can actually not only find common ground, but get each other sometimes to think. Now, nowadays, you can't debate anybody because everyone's just closed-minded. But, you know, as a kid, I do appreciate some of the climate protesters and environmental protesters. I didn't know it at the time. I thought they were annoying. But, you know, they did save that lake. And they kept some of the trees from being cut down. Now, of course, I like wood furniture and everything, so I don't have a problem with forestry, but things can get out of hand. You know, if you let one side have their way completely, it turns out bad. You let the environmentalists just run everything, it turns out bad. Or you let the industries just run wild, it turns out bad. So this tug of war between people has always been a good thing. I've always appreciated it. Even though I disagree, something in the back of my mind says, you know what? They got a point there. You know, they've got a point. But right now, I started looking into what's going on with this silence that's happening about all these data centers being built and this massive amount of power that's needed to power these things and all this water they need. And some cities actually are kind of low on water, and I'm not talking about the ones that are sitting next to a giant river. I'm talking about in other places. And guys, it's just weird to me. I'm not asking for everybody to go protest, but it's like the birds in the forest, you know, it's like, why are they quiet? So when I started looking into it, it got even more disturbing. And that is a lot of these big companies that are putting up the beast buildings are making very generous donations to the environmental groups. I knew there had to be money involved. I knew this. That was my instinct. And then when I look into it, you know, they can't bite the hand that feeds them. You know, these big companies, like I said, their brochure view, which is what they show the public, they really tout this whole green stuff, you know, where their beast building is powered completely by green energy, but it still takes water. It still takes land. They got to run all these lines. And I'm not against all that, by the way, guys. I'm just saying, you know, when you have very loud voices all throughout your life that are always there, you can count on them. If you run a new gas pipeline, or if you do anything, there's always a bunch of protesters. You can't get anything done. I mean, look at the Keystone XL pipeline. You can't get anything done. this is different. I mean, we're talking about something that needs an enormous amount of power and produces an enormous amount of heat. And these guys are saying there's climate change. And we all need to change our ways, but yet they're quiet on this. So then I looked into it further and realized that government officials are in on this. Some of the people you elected and others you did not elect. They're just hired or appointed and they're making these decisions. And their campaigns are being funded by these big companies. There are a lot of backroom deals being made. There are even things being overruled. Like normally they would do an impact study on something. These beast buildings are being put up so fast. And power plants. You know, it used to be, it would take 20 years or something like that, 10, 20 years to put up a power plant. And now things are going really fast. We're talking just in a matter of months, these things are going up. And everyone's quiet. They don't want you to hear about this. But at the same time, we got another problem, and that is China's doing this as well. A lot of other countries are doing this. It's kind of an arms race. And if America doesn't do it, then it's going to be somewhere else. And whoever owns compute is going to control the world. So anyway, anytime you guys use ChatGPT or Grok or any of those chatbots, Gemini, just remember, anytime you ask it a question, it's using compute. Now, I'm done talking about compute, and I want to talk a little bit about some of the job loss. I'm getting some new information in, some new examples of job loss. And this is actually getting really bad. Before I was telling you about the job loss that has to do with if somebody sits at a desk, especially in these large companies, large corporations, and they have cubicles everywhere and people working on computers. There has been massive job loss already in those fields. And it's everything from receptionists, tech support, customer service, all kinds of desk jobs are going away. And now I'm seeing a lot of pressure on the software industry. I'm not talking about mine, but I'm talking about computer science engineers. And, you know, a lot of these college graduates are getting out of college with a degree, and so many of them can't get a job right now. And the existing ones, some of them are being let go because they're leveraging the power of AI to do their job a little faster. Therefore, you need less people at the company. So I'm getting a lot of people reaching out to me and letting me know exactly what happened at their company and how they were replaced. But there's another example that I haven't talked about, and this I had just heard about is a phenomena. And that is that there are people that are scrambling right now to evolve with this AI issue. You know, there's a lot of people freaked out right now because people that have lost their job, they're trying to get another job, or they're trying to figure out how in the world do I make this work. So now we've got this army of people that are using AI and just creating all these little companies Now you might say that's good, but listen what's happening here. For instance, one guy created a company that he has AI answer a phone 24/7. And this AI, you cannot tell that it's not human. They've advanced these AIs now to throw some kind of imperfect speech in, speak in someone's accent or dialect. And so you can't really tell. But yet these AI are able to answer the phone, and they're able to have a conversation with people. And we're starting to see this in the insurance industry, claims, things like that. But now we're starting to see them in these little companies pop up where they're sourcing parts and things like that. So you can call these little companies, talk to an AI over the phone, and it'll source what you want and then get it delivered to you right away. Now this is probably going to freak Amazon out a little bit, but the reason that is an issue is because the other companies that were doing it are going to be impacted by all these new startups. And a lot of these big Fortune 500 companies are not going to be the same, and some of them will actually go down in the next few years. It's going to change almost everything around you. And so, I'm not against entrepreneurs doing what they need to do, but I'm telling you that the job loss is real. And what's happening is a very technical computer guy is able to create a system that has replaced a company down the road or across the country. I mean, his system can handle what 10 people could handle before. So someplace 10 people are going to be let go because that company over there is not making it. And there's another really crappy thing that's going on. You can actually see some of this on YouTube, but there are people, there's like another rush going on where people are setting up micro websites. And they're using AI to create these websites really fast. So now millions of websites are being created. And it's created by AI. And what they're trying to do, there's this struggle, and I'll talk about this on another video, but there's a lot of companies that I know a lot of people. They're really having a hard time getting the word out to the customers that, hey, I've got this product. In the past, they had no problem. Early on, we could all advertise on Google. People do a search and we'd come up and they click. But right now, AI has disrupted the search engine thing so much that Google's search revenue has plunged to unbelievably low levels. And so companies are affected because people just aren't even going there to do a search anymore. So now all of a sudden, people are asking AI. They're not even going and asking general questions on search engines anymore because the results are garbage. So they're asking AI and they're getting a better answer. And what's interesting is it's starting to happen is some of these AI companies like OpenAI has ChatGPT, and behind the scenes they're pretty concerned about how their revenue is dropping or just not there. So they started promising the investors that they're going to start leveraging advertising in the chatbot. And so in the future, the response you get from the AI LLM chatbot, when you say where's the best pizza restaurant near me, the result will be similar to Google, where it won't be the best one. it'll be the one that paid them. So the chatbots are about to become really biased. They were biased already, but now they're going to be motivated by what company can pay them. But it still doesn't solve the fact that there's a lot of companies that have products that people don't even know exist. And so people don't even do searches for them. And so I'm seeing a lot of companies really struggling right now. Some of them are going to go out of business within the next year, and they're going to let all their people go. This is really happening. Now, some people have said to me, you need to embrace AI. And I was kind of appalled at that, because I'm thinking, well, it's a new technology, but what does it mean to embrace AI? So I asked AI to create a picture of what it looks like to embrace AI. And here's what it came up with. This thing that's happening right now, the advancement of AI, is it's not the same as any other technology or industrial revolution, anything like that. People like to tell me, well, when the car was invented, all of a sudden, all the horses and wagons and everything, that whole industry died off. But it was at a slower pace, and it wasn't such a widespread thing. Here we have something that's disrupting everything. This is not how we get around. It is everything. It is how we shop. It is how we think. Kids are going to be using AI to think for them. It's going to affect how we believe about certain things. It's going to be leveraged by some very powerful people to control the masses. It's going to create massive job loss. And for those of you who say, well, for every job that's eliminated, there's one created. It's not true in this case, because when you have someone, let's say a lady, she's a secretary at a large company, and she's been there 15 years, and she just let go because of AI. How's she supposed to go and help build a data center or program AI agents and all this high-tech stuff? I mean, there's a lot of people that they had fairly simple jobs as far as what they're comfortable with doing, but it's a lot of hard work. And now you're trying to say, let's take all these people and they need to become programmers. Well, there's already a lot of programmers, and they're already jumping into this. So this change is happening really, really fast. And it's catching a lot of people off guard. And so in a lot of my upcoming videos, I'm going to be talking about how people can survive this. What can they do for a living? Because we're going to be in a world pretty soon it's going to be like the haves and the have-nots. And the amount of people struggling is going to be huge. There's not going to be a middle anymore. There's going to be just this upper class elite, and then there's going to be everyone else. And everyone else is going to be very displaced, and that's why a lot of these tech CEOs are talking about this universal basic income, because they understand that you got to try to keep people sedentary and not have them all upset. and they're at the bottom and they have absolutely no way to change their situation anymore. So they're looking to float these ideas that just kind of keep people satisfied just enough. So I'll be talking about more of that stuff later. But anyway, I've gone on long enough today. I really appreciate that you have watched up to this far, and just keep in mind when you're living your life and you're doing things, I'll be keeping my eye on the AI situation, and I'll keep letting you know as things change and new things that come up, or even questions that you guys have that you put in the comments. I'll be addressing a lot of those. So, all right, remember, for everything we gain, there's something lost. So, catch you later, guys. Bye.